Hey guys, this is TheTurtleDork here with a review of Doctor Strange, the next installment in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I will give you a spoiler alert. There may be some spoilers in this review. I'm going to try to stay spoiler light, but I may get into some aspects of this film that could be a spoiler. So I'll definitely put a spoiler warning in this video as well, in the description of this video. So I just want to let you know, if you've seen the movie, go ahead. If not, go ahead, watch the movie, come back and check out my review. For a lot of people who may not know a lot about the character or the origin of this character, he's basically about a neurosurgeon who gets into this really horrific car accident. He damages his hands, so through his rehabilitation, it sends him to a place called the Carmitage, where he meets up with the Ancient One to learn kind of like the mystical arts, and he's fighting these mystical threats that are threatening our world and our universe. First, I kind of want to start with the cast. Just real quick, Stephen Strange, played by Benedict Cumberbatch, I thought he was really good. The character of Stephen Strange is really arrogant, very egotistical, all about himself, and Doctor Strange, Benedict Cumberbatch, does a great job of portraying that and seeing that arc from the first act all the way to the third act, and how he changes and shifts from kind of stripping that away. Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One was just phenomenal. I'll get into her a little bit later, into some of like the physicality and her some of her action sequences. She was definitely probably one of my favorite characters to watch, and I just love her portrayal of the character, like her philosophy, her teachings, just how very tranquil she was. Also, the chemistry between Benedict Cumberbatch, Stephen Strange, and Rachel McAdams, Christine Palmer, I thought they had really good chemistry. Now, her character, Christine Palmer, doesn't really have a lot to do in this movie. It's more of a thankless role, but she kind of pops in and out in certain parts of the film, and she definitely serves her purpose. And she does play an important part in Stephen Strange's life and in this movie, but she's not part of the main narrative of this story. Baron Mordo, played by Chiwetel Ejiofor, he was also very, very good. Now, a lot of people who know of the comics know that Baron Mordo does have a turn to kind of like the dark side. And the thing that I really kind of appreciated and I really liked in this film was really how his arc from good to evil didn't feel like it would happen suddenly. You see throughout the course of this film, they are kind of laying down these little nuggets to kind of show you his turn, so that when his turn comes towards the end of the film, as an audience member, you kind of buy into that. Mads Mikkelsen, he was fine. He was okay in the film. A lot of people do have complaints, and this has been going on for a long time, about Marvel films and their villains. I don't think he was the worst villain, but I think when you have an actor on the caliber of Mads Mikkelsen, that he probably could have been used a little bit better. Which may be one of my complaints, is the fact that we learn a lot about his character through exposition, and we really don't see, because he is actually a former student and master of the Ancient One, and so he turns evil. But the thing that is kind of interesting is that with Baron Mordo's character and seeing his arc throughout the course of this film, it's almost kind of like a roundabout way of seeing the origin story of Caecilius. Seeing how he went from the ancient, being a student under the Ancient One, and really going to the dark universe. So let's go to some of the standout moments and scenes that I really enjoyed in this film. I gotta start out with the opening scene. The opening scene is with Caecilius. He beheads the librarian, and he takes some pages out of one of the books, and we come to find out what these pages are for a little bit later. But then that goes right into this action sequence in the city with the Ancient One, and then you really start to see how the 3D and the visual effects play in this opening scene, and it's a fantastic action sequence with buildings turning and folding into each other, and just again, and we really get to see the fighting style and how the fight scenes interact with the world around them, and how that world is changing around them, but they're fighting, and it's just magnificent to watch. There was another great scene with Scott Adkins, who's also in this movie. He plays one of the zealots of Caecilius's cult, and he has a fight scene in the astral plane with Doctor Strange when his body is kind of laying in the hospital and Christine Palmer is working on him. His astral plane form leaves his body, and he's fighting Scott Adkins' astral plane form in the hospital, and it's just interesting to see how that fight scene plays out and how that affects the people in the physical realm. It's a very clever way, and you really get to see Scott Derrickson's horror background kind of play into that scene as well. There was also this amazing scene that was in Hong Kong when we get to see Doctor Strange just use a spell to reverse time. And in that scene, it's so interesting. It's something that I've actually never seen before, is that when he's reversing time, everything around him is reversing, but him and Mordo and Caecilius and some of his other zealots are fighting in real time, but everything around them is affecting them as they fight. I also have to talk about Benedict Wong as the character of Wong, his interactions with Stephen Strange, and he provided a lot of comic relief. Some of the comedy in this film really landed, but some of it kind of fell flat. I actually liked a lot of the comedic moments with Wong. You know, when Stephen Strange is really kind of ribbing him about his name and being a one name person like Adele or Eminem or Drake, and there's a scene where he calls him Beyonce. And during this whole time, he never cracks a smile, he never laughs. And Stephen Strange is like, I know you've heard of Beyonce. And so then we cut to Wong in the library, and he has his headphones in and he's listening to Beyonce. It was kind of funny. It was a cool little joke that they kind of had. Also with Baron Mordo, his change from his turn from good to evil, I thought it was going to be done in a way where it was going to stem from jealousy, and you kind of see little hints of that. There's an attack on one of the sanctums, and this is also we get to see the Cloak of Levitation, which is also, you could say that was a character in and of itself, which has some great moments. But there's a moment when Baron Mordo, when him and the Ancient One come to the Santorum after everything has kind of died down, and Mordo sees that he has the Cloak of Levitation on, and he says, wow, he's like, so the cloak chose you. And so in that moment, I thought that his turn was going to come from a place of jealousy, where it was going to be that, you know, the Ancient One would see something in Doctor Strange, and she would really try to harness his powers as opposed to harnessing the power of Baron Mordo. But there's an interesting turn where it doesn't stem necessarily from jealousy, but it comes from betrayal. So we learn that the Ancient One has basically been using energy from the Dark Universe, and through her teachings, this is something that she's told Mordo, that you should never use energy from the Dark Universe. So basically, when he finds this out, he finds this to be a big betrayal, and that starts his turn to really kind of go against everything that he's learned from the Ancient One. If I had any nitpicks or some complaints about this movie, it would be maybe around the second act during like some of his training. I know we do have a passage of time, but it does feel like he learns how to use a lot of his mystical abilities fairly quickly. And I know in a movie that's only 2 hours long, in an origin story, you have to do certain things. You have to cut the film in a certain way to really show that he's starting to kind of grasp that. But that may have been a slight nitpick. Is that felt a little rushed, a little quick. There are elements of kind of Batman Begins, and I kind of even felt that as I was watching the film, that it felt like Doctor Strange's character, like when you see Batman kind of go to the east to kind of learn a lot of these ways through Ra's al Ghul, and him going to the east to study under the Ancient One. You can kind of see a lot of similarities there, but again, that doesn't really bother me too much. Because again, when you're dealing with the origin story, I mean, you're going to see a lot of these same kind of tropes kind of pop up. It's going to feel like it's very derivative, but I mean, there's only so many places that you can go. A lot of times, even me personally, a lot of people talk about superhero fatigue, and I start to feel the fatigue a little bit. But having a film like this that opens up the world to other realms, to other dimensions, to a different type of superhero character, it does give it a fresh take on the genre. And just looking at the rogues gallery of all the characters that Marvel has, having a character like Doctor Strange really allows them the opportunity to push the genre in a lot of different directions so that it doesn't feel stale. And that I really like, and I really do appreciate. So I guess overall, if I was going to give this a score out of 10, I would give this a solid 8. I really enjoyed this film. I'll definitely be checking it out again, just to kind of really take in a lot of the stuff that I saw. So I'm really enjoying what the Marvel Cinematic Universe has to offer. I mean, this is the 14th film in this universe, and you really feel like they're building towards something that's going to be pretty epic when we get to Infinity War, and I'm enjoying the ride. So keep bringing it on. So I am Brian Young, the Turtle Dork. Go ahead and check out my other dorks at Mouth Dork, at Sidewalk Siren, at the Disco Dork. Our podcast, the ITMOD podcast. Go ahead and check us out on iTunes. So with that, guys, I am the Turtle Dork, and I am out. We'll be right back.